What's our store code?
For my kid.
Good evening. This organizational meeting of the Hopkins School Board is called to order at 6:03 p.m. Right before we went live, I was saying how good it feels to be back at the board table with my fabulous board colleagues, including our ex officio member, our superintendent, Dr. Mary Perry-Reed. We have this organizational meeting now for the next hour or so, depending on how long it takes us to get through all the agenda items. And then we'll have our regular meeting starting at 7 p.m. this evening. So our first agenda item is the approval of the agenda. I would look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. So next, I will turn it over to Dr. Mary Perry-Reed for our first new business item.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard, and I would welcome Director of Business Services, Tariro Chapanduka, to the table. And Tariro, if you'd like to stay at the table for the first three agenda items, that would be great. But the first one requests that the board approve the proposed depositories for the 22-23 school year. This is an annual standard practice, and I'll have Director Chapanduka walk the board members through this information.
Thank you, Dr. Mary Perry-Reed. Good evening, Chair Bouchard. Good evening, respectful board members. Welcome back to school year 23. As alluded by the superintendent, I have three items to present to the board. The first item is the resolution designating depositories for school funds. These are financial institutions the district works with when it comes to us receiving resources into the district, whether it's resources from the federal government, from the state, or some of the bond proceeds. So we do work with a number of organizations. So for checking account depositories, payroll, we have separate accounts which we have created for community education and for school nutrition, just for easier in reconciling our bank funds. We also have a general and student activities account, and all these accounts are actually held and service provided through US Bank and the Minnesota School Liquid Asset Fund. We also have investment depositories. These are either funds which are being held either as part of our trusts or part of our bond funds proceeds. So we use US Bancorp, which is part of the parent company of US Bank. We use Public Finance Management, which is now part of US Bank, and they do some of the investment advisories, and they are also the ones who actually are the parent to the Minnesota School District Liquid Asset Fund. We also use CBs. CBs actually, they are the trust advisors for us other post-employment benefits, as well as our severance trust fund. We also use Fidelity. Fidelity does hold our 403B for employee retirement plans. As you know, that as a school district, we do have a provision where our employees can contribute in addition to what the district provides into a tax-sheltered annuity retirement plan. So we use Fidelity for that. We also use MetLife for the same. So we ended up choosing two different service providers. So employees, depending with how they want to invest their funds, they can either choose Fidelity or MetLife. For cash transfer accounts, we use US Bank as well as the Minnesota School District Liquid Asset Fund. Our custodian for any of our investments, again, is US Bank, as well as the Minnesota School District Liquid Asset Fund. So the recommendation for this resolution is that the board adopts and approves the proposed depositories for fiscal year 22-23. And these are organizations which the district has been working with for so many years.
Thank you very much, Director Chapanduka. Any questions or comments from my board colleagues? So I would look for a motion that the board approve the proposed depositories for the 2022-23 school year.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second? I have, oh, sorry, thank you for the second. Just like a little rusty, you know? Sorry about that. I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the proposed depositories for the 2022-23 school year. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Director Chapanduka, I think we can move on to our next agenda item.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. The next agenda item is a resolution authorizing electronic funds and transfer and investments. Again, as the board is the custodian for all resources coming into the district, this resolution actually allows me, as the Director of Business Services and the Controller, currently Mr. Jason Stegman, to be able to make electronic funds transfer between school district funds and school district accounts. So we do these transfers, for example, when it comes to payroll, or when it comes to some of our accounts payable or purchase services. So this resolution just gives me authorization on behalf of the board to be able to make these transfers on a periodic basis. So the recommendation is for the board to authorize the use of electronic funds transfer and investments for the district.
Thank you, Director Chapanduka. Any questions or comments? So this is a resolution, which means we need to call Clerk Peterson into action here for her favorite job, which is a roll call vote. So I will read the resolution into the record and then look for a motion in a second. So be it resolved that the Director of Business Services, Teruro Chapanduka, and Controller be authorized to make or cause to be made electronic funds transfers between school district accounts. Be it resolved further that the Director of Business Services, Teruro Chapanduka, and Controller be authorized to open or cause to be opened investment accounts with designated institutions in consideration of terms, conditions, and covenants required by such institutions, to endorse or cause to be endorsed on behalf of the district any drafts, orders, certificates, checks, or other investment instruments in connection with such accounts, and to make or cause to be made deposits to such accounts by check, draft, order, or electronic funds transfer. Be it resolved further that unless superseded, any and all resolutions heretofore adopted by the Board of Education and certified to depositories designated at the organizational meeting of August 30th, 2022, governing the operation of this district's accounts with them be and are hereby continued in full force. So I would look for a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Peterson.
Director Adams.
Aye.
Vice Chair Andreessen.
Aye.
Director Khan.
Aye.
Director Ross.
Aye.
Chair Bouchard.
Aye.
Director Hartland.
Aye.
Director Peterson. Aye.
Wonderful. Thank you, Clerk Peterson. We have 7 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carries. We can continue on to our next agenda item. Thank you, Director Chapanduka.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. The next item is the designation of official district newspaper. As specified by statute and required by law, we are supposed to name an official newspaper for district publications. Currently and in the past, we've been using SunSailor and SunPost, and we'll continue to use them based on the bid and the rate, which is competitive. Last year, the rate was sitting at $12.85 per column inch for the first insertion. It's increasing to $13. And anything beyond that, it was $6.40. It's increasing to $6.90. And if there's any mail or fax requirements, there's an additional $20 charge for typesetting. So the request here is for the board to designate SunSailor, SunPost publication as the official newspaper of the Hopkins School District for the school year 22-23. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Chapanduka. Any comments or questions from my board colleagues? Okay, so I would look for a motion that the board designate the SunSailor, SunPost publications as the official newspaper of the Hopkins Public Schools for the 2022-23 school year.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to designate the SunSailor, SunPost publications as the official newspaper of Hopkins Public Schools for the 2022-23 school year. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Director Chapanduka.
Thank you.
It's really good to see you.
Great to see you too. Thank you.
Next, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Mary Peary-Reed for our next agenda item.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard, and I would invite Dr. Lightfoot to the table for the next two items. The first is about the Hopkins Public Schools having a contract with a law firm, partnering with lawyers at that firm to have legal expertise that may be outside of the expertise that we have in-house, or thought partnering on really important legal issues. And then the second item is a review of School Board Policy 253. So Dr. Lightfoot.
Sure. Good to be with you this evening. First, the policy, you can tell where my head is already. The information that was provided to you are the current rates for the services of Ratwick Law, who we use as outside counsel. As Dr. Mary Peary-Reed mentioned, we do at times use other agencies, other firms to provide particular sets of expertise that they might possess, sometimes being things like construction, sometimes being things like deeper level of asset transfers, sometimes property purchases, just some general examples of sometimes where we go to those other areas of expertise. But with that, it is not a change from where we were in the previous year. So with that, I can answer any questions that might be related to that item.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Lightfoot. Any questions or comments?
Chair Bouchard.
Yes, Director Adams.
Dr. Lightfoot, I know we've relied on Laura Booth a lot in the past. Is she now with this law firm?
She is. Yep, she's a senior partner there, and made that transition from her solo firm to work with Ratwick. And still provides great counsel and specific counsel for us as well, beyond general counsel, really looking at more of the area of 504, special education, some of her primary area of expertise.
All right, very good, thank you.
Ratwick has also been really helpful in advising our monitoring committee on some policy pieces, as well as, you know, when we were kind of in the depths of COVID, trying to help us figure out some of those aspects as well. So, been great partners for us. Any further questions or discussion? So I would look for a motion that the board approve the utilization of the legal services as provided through Ratwick, Rozek, and Maloney at hourly rates as noted above for the 2022-2023 school year, dependent upon the services required. We'll just take each of these bullet points as a separate motion. So I would look for a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the utilization of the legal services as provided through Ratwick, Rozek, and Maloney at hourly rates as noted above for the 2022-2023 school year, dependent upon the services required. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. I would look for a motion that the board allow district administration the discretion for the 2022-23 school year to seek other legal counsel and/or utilize a licensed attorney when there is a need to acquire special expertise.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board allow district administration the discretion for the 2022-2023 school year to seek other legal counsel and/or utilize a licensed attorney when there's a need to acquire special expertise. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. And I'll turn it back to you, Assistant Superintendent Lightfoot, for our next agenda item.
Certainly. The policy is a standard annual review that you have related to board member operations. So do believe you've had the chance to review that and am here for any guidance or counsel that may be related to that. Otherwise, it's an open discussion on the topics that are contained within 253.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Lightfoot. I'm recalling previous conversations around setting board compensation, and you see some background information here in the packet. And one of the themes that came up the last time we had this discussion in August 2021 was the fact that we've seen other districts in the state of Minnesota not increase board member compensation for a period of time, and then get into a situation where they really needed to catch up so that their board's compensation was more in alignment with districts of a similar size in the state. And that causes, some budgetary issues when you're in this position where you're needing to kind of catch up. And so that was one of the reasons we chose to do a 2% increase in compensation the last time around, just for context. I think another helpful way of thinking about this is that our CFAC, our Citizens Financial Advisory Committee, really kind of indicated to us that a 2 to 3% salary increase was in alignment with what we needed to do budgetarily for this year when we approved the budget back in June. And of course, those conversations started last January. And so that's where we saw our union contracts come in kind of in that 2 to 3% range. So that's also kind of a guidepost for us in this conversation. So curious to hear your thoughts about what you would like to see for board member compensation for this year.
Chair Bouchard,
Yes, Director Adams.
I've spoken with board members across the state, and our compensation, I think, is in the middle of where most school boards are. Some get zero compensation. I'm not in favor of that. But there are other boards that get substantially more than what we pay. So I think a 2% increase would be reasonable for the coming year.
Thank you. Appreciate that context.
I'll make a motion if no one else has anything to say.
Oh, Director Adams is ready to go.
I do appreciate that info, Steve. That was my only question, was if there was any data on.
I move that we increase school board member compensation 2% across the board this year.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to increase school board member compensation by 2%. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. So the next piece here that we need to talk about is term life insurance. So we have in the recommendation that term life insurance in the amount of $50,000 for each board member be continued. The cost is indicated there in the board packet. So for the 7 board members, it's $525 annually, a slight increase over last year, which was $508.20. And it's now at $75 a person, previously at $72.60 a person. So wondering if you want to have any discussion around that, or if someone's ready to make a motion.
Chair Bouchard.
Director Adams.
That's a very having been in the insurance business and shopped for life insurance myself, it's a very reasonable rate. So I would move that we provide board members $50,000 of life insurance at a cost of $525 annually for the year 2021, or 2022, 23.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second to provide $50,000 for each board member of term life insurance at the costs indicated in the board packet for the 2022-2023 school year. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Assistant Superintendent Lightfoot.
Thank you.
And I will turn it over to Dr. Mary Peary-Reed for our next agenda item.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. So the next agenda item is related to education organizations, of which Hopkins Public Schools is a member, and we are asking the board to authorize continued participation for this school year. So the first organization is AMSD, or the Association of Metropolitan School Districts. This is an organization that has 41 districts who are members, and membership is comprised of the superintendent and a board member from each district. Steve Adams is our representative, with Jason Ross as an alternate. We meet monthly. I serve on the executive board for AMSD, and it's a really helpful organization. Scott Kronquist is the executive director. The advocacy is mostly around legislative work, building a legislative platform with lots of inputs from superintendents and multiple opportunities to interact with our senators and state representatives. So we're recommending that Hopkins continue as a member in this organization for the amount stated in the packet, which is about $10,000 for the school year. The next organization is Minnesota State High School League. Our new director of athletics and activities is Jared Ellerson. About 2 weeks ago, superintendents, high school principals, and ADs met as a late conference group over at Minnetonka, and we discussed how we will partner together to help our students who are participants and also our student athletes engage in respectful and affirming anti-racist behavior while at athletic practices and also at competitions. So this is a really important group to continue being a part of, and we recommend that we continue our membership. The third is MSBA, Minnesota School Boards Association, an organization, and I'm not sure if do we want to have any discussion about, maybe we can invite discussion after all four.
Sure.
So MSBA and then NSBA, the National School Board Association, if you remember, Treasurer Adams and Director Hartland attended an NSBA conference this past school year and also received an award on behalf of the district, the Magna Award, so that was a neat thing. And both organizations have provided thoughtful input about what it means to be a school board member and lots of resources to help school board members do their jobs well. And at this time, I would invite questions or discussion with, amongst the board.
Thank you, Dr. Mary Piri Reed. Questions or comments about any of these organizations that we just outlined?
Chair Bouchard.
Yes, Director Adams.
The Minnesota School Boards Association withdrew from the National School Boards Association in the last year. And in light of that, I'd be open to discussion as to whether or not we should continue our membership. The Minnesota School Boards Association has joined a new organization that was formed out of school board associations that withdrew from NSBA. It's called COSBA, C-O-S-S-B-A. I'm not sure what the acronym is for, but I've inquired from the Minnesota School Boards Association if there's going to be a membership fee associated with that, and if so, what it would be. And I haven't gotten a response back yet. So I would not be adverse to continuing our membership in NSBA because they do some effective lobbying, and their publications are very timely, I think. But and the fee, quite honestly, is quite minimal compared to some of the other membership fees that we pay. But I think we should open that to discussion.
Yeah, I think what was difficult about MSBA's decision to leave NSBA is it was a highly politicized decision, and it was not well communicated to member districts. And there were school board members across the state who felt this way, and we made our concerns known to that organization. I think, when we're talking about public school advocacy nationally, it's really important to have a unified approach, and NSBA provided some of that structure. This new organization, COSBA, as Director Adams indicated, we don't know a lot about it yet, and I think there are just still a lot of questions, that I have about what it would mean to remain part of MSBA and then by default be part of COSBA, right?
Yeah.
This larger national advocacy organization and we don't really know what their platform is gonna be, right? And what they're gonna be advocating for. So those would be some concerns that I have. I think another way to think about this conversation is how do we use MSBA? And Director Adams has outlined some of the great resources that we've used, right? Like we've used MSBA for new board member training and orientation that some of our most recent board members could speak to, if that was useful. And then ongoing trainings too. I've participated in a couple of the board chair trainings. It's helpful from a procedural standpoint. Those trainings have been for me at least. And then looking at the policy piece that we've used MSBA model policies in monitoring quite a bit. To that point, there are other places to get model policy, and including, through the legal firm that we just approved, we can rely on their expertise as well. So those would be some of the things that would come to mind for me, and curious to know your thoughts.
Chair Bouchard.
Yes, Director Hartland.
I have recently participated in some MSBA trainings and did find them moderately helpful with kind of coming up to speed with the expectations and duties and responsibilities of being a board member. That being said, we also went with Treasurer Adams to the NSBA conference and additionally found that to be a very useful resource and something that was of value. And I also had those same concerns about what it would mean to belong to both the MSBA and the NSBA. And frankly, having very little information about this COSBA does kind of alarm me. And I had read, admittedly, not tons about it, but the founding members of COSBA, the states that split off from the NSBA to form COSBA are Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, and Wyoming. And so, to me, it would be, I feel like a little bit more just knowledge of what this consortium will stand for and the types of platforms upon which they will advocate is necessary.
I want to understand where you're at. Do you feel like that more information is necessary before we decide if we want to be part of MSBA for this year?
I believe so. That is
Thank
my
you.
current feeling.
Yeah, I agree with Director Hartland about this because I know nothing about COSBA. I don't know what their governing body is like. I don't know if, and we are so pro-diversity, and, you know, I really support that. I don't know how diverse their governing body is, what they stand for. They're just, I mean, way too many questions. And I wish we had been informed about this. Did everyone get an email that they had joined with COSBA, MSBA?
Yes, it happened during last school year, and there was an email communication that the MSBA board had already taken the vote to leave NSBA, and then that was followed up, if I'm remembering correctly, by another email announcing this new COSBA
Okay.
consortium.
I must have missed it, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Chair Bouchard.
Yes, Director Adams.
I don't think we're questioning whether or not to be members of the Minnesota School Boards Association. I think the question is, are we going to be members of this COSBA whenever we know about it? We are not members by default if we join the Minnesota School Boards Association. Just as we were not members of the National School Boards Association by being members of MSBA before. So there are two separate decisions that need to be made. Do we want to go with the Minnesota School Boards Association and some national association? And at this point, knowing what little we know about this COSBA, I would say we continue to maintain our membership in the National School Boards Association too, until we know more about what the COSBA makeup is and what their agenda is. So,
That sounds good to me,
all right.
yeah.
So we did approve continued membership in National School Boards Association at the January board meeting. So we were paid up through the end of this calendar year
Okay.
for National School Boards Association. So we don't we don't need to decide that at all tonight. We can revisit that in January. And maybe by that time, we'll have more information about COSBA.
Hopefully.
I mean, if anyone at this table would have it right now, Steve, it would be you, so.
They don't.
They don't, right?
They don't even know if they're, what the makeup is going to be, so.
Right, so I think structurally, that's an important clarification, right? That we could remain part of Minnesota School Boards Association, but not be fee-paying members to COSBA, that would be a separate decision?
Right.
Okay,
If it's going to follow as it has in the past with MSBA and NSBA, because there was at least 1 year that I recall, when I was on the board, we did not pay dues to the National Association. So, so we didn't go to their conference that year.
okay.
So,
Another thing to keep in mind about MSBA is the annual delegate assembly where we can bring forward priorities from our districts and
Right.
get that as part of the Minnesota School Boards Association platform. And there is some organizing going on to bring forward more proposals that closely align with our work around Vision 2031 and a lot of the equity and anti-racism work and inclusion work that's happening in other districts. So I think that there's great potential for us to be part of that change in terms of the delegate assembly and kind of what types of resolutions are brought forward there.
Yeah.
So, of course, if we were not members of MSBA, we would not, have a voice in that process.
Exactly.
And Steve has been a delegate consistently, which is awesome.
I had to
And
crash one year, but
That's right. And Shannon's been a delegate. I served as a delegate. So that's another consideration.
well, Chair Bouchard, I'll make a motion
Great.
that the board authorizes continued memberships in AMSD, the Minnesota State High School League, the Minnesota School Boards Association, and the National School Boards Association for the 2022-23 school year.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to authorize continued memberships in AMSD, MSHSL, MSBA, and NSBA for the 2022-2023 school year. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. That was an acronym fest there in that motion. Okay, wonderful. So next, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion, and is there a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. This organizational meeting of the Hopkins School Board is adjourned at 6:38 PM. We will see you back here at 7 PM for our regular meeting. Thank you.
All right.
1, 2, 1, 2. Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, great.
So are we getting through?
We are. Good evening. This meeting of the Hopkins School Board is called to order at 7 p.m. Our first agenda item is open agenda. This is typically the time during our meeting when we take public comment. The Hopkins School Board believes public comment is crucial for implementing our collective vision 2031. We take public comment in two ways. You can leave a voicemail before the meeting. There are instructions for how to do that in the board packet. And we play those voicemails publicly during the meeting. You can also come to the board meeting room before the meeting begins, fill out a public comment card, and hand it to the board chair. That would be me before the meeting starts, and I'll call you forward during the meeting. We've received no voicemails and no public comment cards this evening. Next, we'll move into our reports. Typically, we start with our student board representative reports. Our student board reps are busy beginning the school year this week, and so we do not have any of our student board reps with us this evening. So we will move to our superintendent's report with Dr. Mary Puri-Reed.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. And I am going to try to present my slides here. Oh, perfect. Okay. Wonderful. So we are off. The school year 22-23 has officially begun, and students are happy. Staff seemed well rested and communicated that they were ready for the school year, so we're really excited that we've had a positive start. I think a few of our kiddos, especially our kindergartners today, and maybe even a few secondary students, had a few first day jitters, but the staff were there to provide some nurturing support and exciting welcome, and so I think everybody is ready for the school year. So part of the school year planning process involves teaming during the summer and training, and of course, quality hiring. We've hired some amazing APs at our high school and at West Junior High. We have a new athletics and activities director, Jared Ellerson. We have a new interim supervisor of nutrition services, and she's with us this evening, Andrea Shack. And so all of these individuals are sitting on or working with our leadership teams and have been preparing all summer for a quality school year. We had a few training days in June, a few training days in August, and so we're really, really thrilled to launch a solid school year. We've also hired nearly 100 new educators who we welcomed for a week of training, August 15 through 19. So that's a picture of all of our new teachers to Hopkins, all the way from early learning to our elementaries, junior high teachers, and of course our high school. So very excited to have all of those educators with us. We thanked our educators for choosing Hopkins. We acknowledged that teachers and school staff are very difficult to find, and these individuals are very talented. They could have chosen almost any district, but they chose Hopkins, and we're really grateful for that. Last Monday, school staff returned to their buildings, and we had an energizing district launch. On Tuesday, August 23rd, we had Vice Chair Andreessen and Treasurer Adams, who represented the board in person, so we're grateful for that representation. We know our other board members watched the live stream, as did about 40% of our staff. We gave staff the option of attending the in-person experience in the auditorium at Hopkins High School or remaining in their buildings if they felt safer doing so, to watch the live stream. So it was a really energetic welcome. Our MCs, Eisenhower Elementary teacher, Miss Gruss, and our Glen Lake Elementary teacher, Mr. Mullen, did a fabulous job facilitating the event. I gave a talk on our vision and strategic plan, and Dr. Raj, who has taught us before in our district, facilitated an interactive dialogue building upon our theme of identity. So who are we as a district? How do our vision and core values cohere us on a common path, and what can we learn from our students and scholars along the journey? So it was a really great morning, and then school staff returned to buildings for an identity-themed activity, a school-based activity, came back for an amazing lunch that was prepared by our nutrition services staff with soul food as the ethnic cultural theme for that luncheon. I think, Andrea, you said over 730 staff members participated in the lunch. It was delicious. One of your staff members asked me to report back what my favorite entree was, and I said I couldn't because I mixed everything together and it tasted fabulous. So altogether it was great. So that was a really, really wonderful day. So yesterday was our first day for 1st through 6th graders, as well as 7th and 10th graders, and then any upper class students new to Hopkins, so that 7th and 10th graders, and then any new secondary students could experience and explore their buildings without sort of the usual throng of everyone all together. Many of our students were greeted with music and cheering as they entered their school spaces. And then today was the first day for kindergartners and also the first day back for 8th, 9th, 11th, and 12th graders. Between Cabinet and our Innovation Design and Learning team, IDL, we deployed ourselves to all of the sites to offer extra support around drop-off and pickup, finding classes, wiping down tables in the cafeteria, finding safe spaces, even for we found a safe space for a bike because the student who rode his bike all the way to Hopkins from uptown, by the way, forgot his lock at home. We also had members from our IT, our Information Services and Media Department, who were very busy the last few weeks and also yesterday and today deploying devices to students. Our nutrition services employees providing lunch. Our bus drivers have done an amazing job transporting kids to school. So really, it's been a really, really wonderful and safe launch. We are welcoming nearly 7,000 students, ages 5 through 18, back to school. So that really is a giant feat that requires all of us to work together. And the only thing we ask for in return is happy kids and staff members who feel supported. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions, and we do look forward to providing our school board with a detailed school opening report on September 20. You'll hear lots of detail from all of our fabulous departments. And thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Mary Perry Reed. Love seeing those pictures and hearing some of the anecdotes from the first 2 days of school for scholars across the district. Wondering if my board colleagues have any questions or comments.
Chair Bouchard.
Director Adams.
No questions, but I attended Tanglin's first day yesterday, and there was a lot of excitement, a lot of excited kids and parents. So it was fun to be there. You always feel the energy when you're there for first day. So it was fun.
It's fantastic. Well, with that, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, I would look for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, we'll move to our treasurer's report with Treasurer Adams.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. As you probably noticed, if you read through the treasurer's report that was posted online, we had about 200 pages of checks that were written in the 2 months since we, 2.5 months since we last met. So quite a substantial number. Expenses of note included $20,257 for graduation expenses, and that included gowns, caps, tassels, and diploma covers. Over $70,000 for software subscriptions for some software I'm not even familiar with, but IXL, which I am familiar with, map assessment software, Naviance, which I'm not familiar with. So this is the time of year when we have to re-up on all of our subscriptions for the various software products that we use. Approximately $2,000 was spent for the feather ceremony, which was done in the spring, that Vice Chair Andreessen and I attended. We continue to spend money for psychologist services for non-public schools. I'm assuming that this is still overhang from the COVID coronavirus pandemic. We had a lot of kids that returned to schools with some behavioral issues, and we spent $6,840 for psychologist services for non-public schools, which we are obligated to do by state law. We spent over $58,000 for various landscaping projects across the district this summer. $423,000 for various insurance policies that are required of us for the 2022-23 school year. And that does not include the over $11,000 that we paid for the first 2 installments of our workers' compensation premium. So with that, I move that we approve total disbursements in the amount of $11,189,117.34 for the period June 8, 2022 through August 22nd, 2022.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the treasurer's report. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Treasurer Adams. We will invite Assistant Superintendent Lightfoot up to the table, and I will turn it over to Vice Chair Andreessen for our first agenda item under new business, which is policies in first read.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. I wanted to just give everyone a brief background on this policy that is before us today. It is because of statute. We've been in conversation with our new Director of School Nutrition around the timing of this policy, but also the need for us to get it done quickly so that families know what to expect. As most of you know, we have had a waiver from the federal government to provide summer meals all year long during the pandemic, which means that most of our families are not practiced in the art of filling out the application they have to fill out in order to provide their child with food during the school day. And so this could have a deep impact on families' access to food and to engaging in a robust educational day. So the only ways that our state legislature chose to address this pending crisis for families in the state was to pass statute requiring school districts to basically follow a bunch of rules. So that is what this policy is for, making sure that our district is following the state statute. And I will turn it over to our experts to talk about the details of that.
Certainly, thank you for the opportunity to be with you. As Director Andreessen outlined, what you do see in front of you is Policy 534. This is the school meals policy that is required of us. Normally, we take a policy through 2 reads. When it is a statutory policy that ended with the last legislative session, we do have policy which allows us to look at the required policy adoption within 1 read. So I would note that that's why you see this in its first and final reading for you this evening. And we wanted to make sure that since it is a new policy, that you had the opportunity to review this, ask any questions of any materials that are material items in the policy that might be of information that we can clarify for you. And Andrea has graciously agreed to be with us and was instrumental in reviewing the policy and making sure that we could bring that in front of you and make sure that our community and our families are aware of it as well. So with that, we're open to questions specifically on Policy 534, School Meals Policy.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the monitoring committee for your work on this as well. And wondering if my board colleagues have any comments or questions.
Chair Bouchard,
Director Adams.
I have a question. Section 3D of the policy says that the school district may not enlist the assistance of non-school district employees, such as volunteers, to engage in debt collection efforts. I know in some school districts, some volunteer committees have formed to donate money to cover unpaid meal debt. I was wondering, would this prohibit them from doing that?
No, it would not. I think this pertains to actually like reaching out to families to ask, if they have any meal debt, that we
Okay.
wouldn't have volunteers do that.
All right. And I know there's organizations that do that on a nationwide basis to pay meal debt for various families. And I just want to make sure that we can still accept those funds.
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
Other questions or comments? So I would look for a motion that the board approve policy 534 in full this evening.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve policy 534. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to board member reports. It has been a minute since we've all been together here at the table, and I know that board members engage in their own professional development and community work during the summer months when we take a brief hiatus from meeting as a full board. And so curious to know what you've been up to and reconnect a bit here. So who would like to start?
Chair Bouchard, can I start?
Of course, Director Khan, thank you.
It'll be short, and I wish I had posted this picture to send to everybody, but I had the privilege to do some volunteer work at our Gaywood Elementary School with some really cute goats and many chickens.
Oh, wow.
And I know, Chair Bouchard, you have had a lot of experience with chickens.
For better or for
So-
worse.
So I learned how to corral chickens. And that was really hard. So I have a new appreciation for people who have to do a lot of work with animal husbandry. And I had zero training, so you can imagine me running around and around and around the coop to get those chickens back in, because they needed to come out. And the goats kept on running into the chicken coop to eat all of their food. So we had some obese goats for a while. And the goats had to go on a diet, and we had to learn how to keep the goats physically out of the coop.
Wow.
So yeah,
That sounds like a real experiential learning.
it was a learning
Situation.
experience.
Yeah.
So that's me. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Director Khan.
Was that over the summer?
Yeah,
Nice.
it was fun, though.
Chair Bouchard,
Director Adams.
I had a busy July and August in various education and school board related endeavors. I was invited to be a member of this group called Leading for the Future, which is a project that's sponsored by a organization called Knowledge Works, also the University of St. Thomas. And its acronym is LEAF, L-E-A-F. And they had one cohort participate earlier this year. And then I was invited to be in the second cohort. And what we do is we talk about what might be the possible future for education, and among other things. But it's made up of school board members from across the state. There was a couple of school board members from Roseville, one from Lake Crystal Welcome Memorial down in southern Minnesota. I can't remember all of the other ones, but, Anoka Hennepin School District. But we met 4 times this summer, twice in July and twice in August, via Zoom. But we also did one in-person meeting on August 10th. And we listened to a presentation by Olka Hansen, who's the author of Future of Smart. I don't know if you're familiar with her or not, but the subtitle is How Our Education System Needs to Change to Help All Young People Thrive. And she was very intriguing in some of the things that she suggested. I saw a lot of what is in our Vision 2031 in her presentation, or vice versa. And many of the things that she stressed are in our 2031 plan. So I felt reassured by that. But it was a very useful session. I also attended the MSBA summer session via Zoom on August 4th. And that was not quite as worthwhile, but there were 3 presentations that were part of that summer session. On August 5th, I presented with Catherine Callahan to the Association of Metropolitan School Districts. And our presentation was regarding how we do our candidate forum for our legislative candidates. And we'll be doing one this year again on October 1st. And I think we'll do it again via Zoom so that as many people can attend as possible. You know, when we would do those in person, we'd get about 100 participants in this space, you know, in various rooms. And the last time we did it via Zoom, I can't remember how many we had participate on the day of the event, but we had 5,000 people total attend it or watch it in the subsequent week. So I think we'll do it that way again. We get maximum attendance by doing it virtually. August 11th, I attended the GED graduation, which is always very impressive and very inspiring. And as Superintendent Mary Perry Reed pointed out, I attended the district kickoff on August 23rd. And yesterday I attended the first day of school at Tangleton and got my complimentary coffee and banana bread that was provided by the PTO to parents and staff. So that was my activities. I just would like to also mention that there was a state law change that went into effect on July 1st that may apply to some of us here. I think particularly perhaps Vice Chair Andreessen. But prior to July 1, school board members were not allowed to make more than $8,000 per year doing other non-school board type tasks for the district. So, you know, be it a substitute teacher, drive a bus, be a paraprofessional, whatever. That meant some of the school board members in the state had to stop doing that at some point once they hit that $8,000 maximum. As of July 1, that maximum is now raised to $20,000. So in addition to any remuneration that school board members receive for being on the school board, they can also engage in other roles within the district up to a $20,000 maximum. So you're all welcome to apply for paraprofessional positions and or substitute teaching positions or school bus drivers or whatever. But I just thought I would point that out in case anyone might be so motivated.
Excellent. Thank you, Director Adams.
And on that note, I was going to mention that I appreciated that expansion because I got to attend the first day of school at Gatewood as a para in the Links to Learning. And it was very joyful to be able to be in that environment again and to not be constrained as to how often I can be there by the state legislature. So that was very nice. I also, I can't remember, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, it's going to be, I think, a really good school year. Everyone's excited and happy to be here. I thought also the district kickoff was very energizing. I heard from lots of staff that they enjoyed it, and in particular, the amazing food. And I feel like Director Adams and I go to all the same things, so I have nothing to add to.
Sorry, Shannon.
That's the benefit, right?
Right.
Of going after
That's why I always
Steve.
wait until.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Vice Chair Andreessen.
I have a little bit to add.
Excellent.
Over the summer, my family and my children participated in a few different Hopkins community events, including at least 2 different ways that kids who were impacted by the school model changing, students that were about to encounter that changes were invited to participate and give feedback, and I thought that that was an excellent way to center student voice, and my kids appreciated their time going to see that, and I thought that they were well communicated and fairly well attended. I saw multiple students at both these events that we went to. And then in addition, I now have students at Meadowbrook and North Junior High, and Meadowbrook Elementary's Teacher Appreciation Committee has been going strong kind of since the end of summer, and so we're ready to hit the ground running, and have spent time at Meadowbrook these past couple days, and I was there earlier today, and without fail, I've seen the staff be very energetic, very happy to see their kids again, and very thankful for the various events that have been thrown, including that several mentioned that dinner. Food is very exciting, and then both the PTO and the Appreciation Committee in particular has provided food over the last couple days to Meadowbrook, and so it's been quite festive and a party atmosphere there. And I have seen Natalie Sawatsky out sweating, running, making that Meadowbrook pickup happen, and unbelievably smoothly. I've been very impressed considering that the school, one of their parking lots is still not fully the way it should be, and she is out there running and getting getting kids to their cars. So I have been appreciative of that.
Well, into that same vein, Glenwood Avenue, the main drag for Meadowbrook has been under construction all summer, and that's not completed either. So it's actually closed in one entire direction. And so kudos to Lake Country Transportation, because I think they did a pretty massive reroute of all the buses in the Meadowbrook system based on some last minute changes, which I got and I thought, I wonder why that is. And then I thought, well, Glenwood is still closed. So on top of the parking lot, I mean, traffic flow there is just something else. So Lake Country stepped up too.
That's a lot. That's a lot to navigate. Wow, excellent. Thank you, Directors Hartland and Peterson.
Well, I guess last but not least, I had the pleasure, I didn't have a lot as fun things as you guys were doing, but I participated, in the Hopkins Raspberry Festival run with my children.
Nice.
Unfortunately, I came in last place. My children all beat me. They were waiting and they got me watermelon because they felt bad that I was dusted by them.
Wow, they beat you and they brought you a snack.
They did.
So it's
And they
like-
made fun of me afterwards.
That's excellent. I was there before the parade and watching some of the runners, but you must have been so far behind them.
I was.
that
I was,
Well, at least you got the shirt,
I did.
right? Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
souvenir.
Excellent. Thank you.
Participant, is that what it says?
Yes,
You're not shy about this loss.
I'm not. My children rubbed it in and I ran into Patrick Hanlon at the end of it.
Oh, really?
Well, thank you. Well, it's a great transition, actually. I wanted to update the board and our community on a new collaborative that's forming in our Hopkins Schools community, and we're hoping that this will eventually become West Metro-wide. And one of our partners on it has been Hopkins Mayor Patrick Hanlon, as well as the Hopkins City Council and Hopkins City staff. Commissioner Chris Latondras and the Hennepin County Board have also been really supportive of this work. So we are working on a collaborative structure. The kind of working name for it right now is the Generation Enhanced Network, and I'll read the description of it. So the Generation Enhanced Network, or GEN is the acronym, which is a little awkward for me to talk about. It might be the first acronym that I actually like and can remember. So GEN prioritizes next generation voices and is shaped by their vision. It's an organization for schools, government organizations, nonprofits, businesses, and community organizations to innovate and collaborate to best serve the needs of our next generation in our communities. So throughout the summer, we have hired 8 consultants. So some of them are current Hopkins students, others are Hopkins graduates, and then we have 2 students who didn't attend Hopkins schools, but are part of our larger community. And they've been researching kind of what needs and opportunities exist in our community. What are some of the existing nonprofits, businesses that might want to partner with us as government agencies to, first of all, really centering the voices and the needs of youth in our community. So what do they need right now? And then what do they need looking to the future in order to achieve their long-term goals? And how can we come together as a community to support them? As an elected official, I'm also looking at this as a way to use taxpayer money wisely. So what I've observed is we have a lot of people in our larger West Metro community, I would say across Hennepin County, who really care about youth and are doing excellent work to support youth, and we are duplicating efforts in so many areas. So if we think about our resources that we have as a government agency, the resources that the City of Hopkins has, Hennepin County, how can we really develop a structure where we can be communicating really closely to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts and that we're really making the most of our taxpayer dollars. So this is still very much in the beginning stages. I'd like to thank Dominique Pierre-Toussaint, who's the Community Engagement Director at ICA Food Shelf. He has been a really important partner in this process. Dominique and I have been kind of coordinating the consultants this summer and the research that they've been doing out in the community. We are working on preparing a report of kind of the project at this stage, some of our research findings, and we'll be giving that report at Hopkins School Board meeting. So this is, you'll know, you'll have a little context for it. The Hopkins City Council meeting, sharing it with Hennepin County, and then also reaching out to some of the other cities that touch our district to invite them to be part of it. And then eventually reaching out to nonprofits, community organizations, businesses, and kind of layering in this network of organizations and folks who really want to support youth in our community. So I'm happy to keep you updated as we, excuse me, ma'am.
They just wasted my time, and I'm a parent, and I took my kid out of this school because you guys aren't working.
So I will continue to update our community on the Generation Enhanced Network and look forward to sharing our research and the work we did this summer with you. So we have no incidental reports this evening. In order to give public comment during this last section, I would have had to receive a public comment card before the meeting began. This information is posted in the board packet. So we will move to adjournment, and I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. This meeting of the Hopkins School Board is adjourned at 7:37 p.m. Thank you.